Hey guys, my name is Franklin Lorenzo, and today I'm going to talk about perhaps the most underrated travel lens of all time. Now, before I continue as to which lens I'm talking about, I just wanted you to know that over the years, I have had the opportunity to travel to 54 countries and over 187 cities around the world. And if you're wondering what lens I'm talking about, that is the Canon 28-300mm f3.5-5.6. Now, one of the reasons this is my go-to lens for travel photography is the ability to go from 28mm to 300 in just a second. Now, this lens doesn't work like the other lenses where you rotate a ring and you either zoom in or zoom out. This one you physically have to extend the lens or contract it to get the same result as to use a ring. Now, some people complain that the lens tends to drop when you're walking around, and there is a simple walk around with that. It has a ring that you can tighten. So let's say, for example, when it's retracted, I can tighten the lens, and now when I walk, it won't drop at all. So that's the simple fix around that. The other one is that this lens is pretty heavy, and that is very true. So if you're going to be shooting around all day with this lens, I recommend having a harness, which I will show you in a bit. And then the other thing most people complain about this lens is the low light capabilities. Because the lens ranges from 3.5 to 5.6, it is technically not a good lens for low light capabilities, and I will show you some of the photos that I have captured over my many travels. But there's a simple workaround with that. I typically include any other lens that I know I might need that is aperture 2.8 or below. And simply my kit involves having just one camera, this lens, the 28-300, and another lens if I ever going to do night photography, which is not highly the case. Now, like anybody else, when I take my travel photography, I am usually out and about during the day when there's a lot of sunlight or available light, and this lens performs really well under those conditions. However, when the sun starts to go down, or if you enter a cave or you're shooting at night, this is not the lens to grab. However, I typically don't shoot at night, so this lens works perfectly for me. Now let's talk about carrying the lens. If you're walking around all day taking photos of wherever you're visiting, this lens can get really heavy and it can tire your wrist and even your shoulder. So the simple workaround with that is to get a harness which you attach the mechanism on the tripod collar, and then it goes into the harness. I'm not putting it on 100%. So when it's aiming down, no matter what you do, this lens won't come off. You physically have to turn it to the side and then pull it out in order for the lens to come off. So you can feel safe walking around or hiking or whatever it is that you might be doing. If for whatever reason you do not want to travel with a harness, the solution is simple. We always carried around either personal bag or a camera bag, and most of these cameras bags or personal bags have a middle connector of the shoulder straps, which you use to secure the bag in place even better. So what I do is that I hook the tripod collar onto it, and this takes the weight off from my hands and it gives me a much neater break. Yes, you can let it go from time to time, but I do not advise that you do that because nothing is keeping it in place. So if it turns, it could easily fall. So this is just to give me a break. Other than that, I either have it in my hand or I use my vest, or again, I use this. Now, the main reason I really like this lens is when I go from a 28mm frame to a 300. So I'm going to show you a few examples that I've shot over the years. So the first one being the one that I shot in Santiago de Cuba, where there was this bus full of students who were playing instruments, and I wanted to show where it was shot, but I also wanted to show the emotion or the expression of one of the students, and the ability to go from 28 to 300 in literally 1 second is such a lifesaver. Another example is when I went to Namibia, where one of my friends was in the sand dunes, and I wanted to show how vast it was, but I also wanted to show a tight shot. So again, I went from, I believe it was 135 or something in that range, all the way to 300, and it was just simply a great way to show both what he was doing and how he was occupying the space. Now, before you go thinking that this lens is only for travel, well, you're mistaken, because I have used this lens for headshots, for actors, for dancers, and even for magazines and other travel websites. So I'm going to show you some of those photos, and again, you be the judge. Obviously, with those photos I use professional lighting, but it just goes to show that the lens can be used farther than what it was intended for. So there you have it. So based on what you've seen and what you heard from this video, and based on your own standards, is this lens good for you? Is the weight worth carrying it around? Is the low light capabilities not a big issue for you like it isn't for me? What you decide to do, let me know in the comment section below. But I can just tell you for sure that this lens is not going anywhere, and it will continue to travel with me for many years to come. So until next time, peace out.